I'm not here to follow opinions.
Not here to run the rat race.
Not here to please neighbors and relatives.
I am the writer of my story.
The maker of my own way.
And the creator of my own dream.
I am what I am.
And this is my story.
My story.
My madness.
Namaste, my name is Jain, and when people ask me what do I do, well, there are so many things which I do, but to put it very simply, I must tell you, I make successful people more successful. It's as simple as that. And it's a good conversation starter, isn't it? Many thanks to this platform, My Story, My Madness, who is giving me this opportunity to share my story with you. Even though people who follow me, people who know me would know my story, however, today I intend to share something which probably goes behind the scene. My 10th class exams, after I'm done, it's good 3.5 months of break. And the place where we used to sit, there used to be a balcony. And every day morning, my dad will sit there reading his newspaper, having a cup of tea. Sometimes I will also sit there. One of these mornings, he said, "Would you like to try this?" And he passed on the newspaper to me. I looked at it, it said, earn up to 5,000 rupees in your vacations. Now, 5,000 rupees way back in 1992 was a big sum. Of course, it is big still, but during those days it was much bigger. And I said, okay, fine, let me go and explore. I took out my bicycle and try and imagine, it's summers. And 9 o'clock, 9:30 also the temperature, it's about 32, 35. I cycled about 7-8 kilometers, reached the venue, and it was on the second floor. I walk up, I see a sea of people, 50, 60 of them. I was so nervous I came down. But then I told myself, I have cycled all this way in this heat, let me just go and explore what is there. I go up, and I asked the receptionist there, the lady at the reception said, "Give me your resume." I was like, that was the first time ever in my life coming across this term called resume. I said, "What is a resume?" She said, "Biodata." I said, "What is a biodata?" She gave me a piece of paper and a pen. She said, "Write down all your particulars and achievements." I could write my name and the address and everything else, but when it comes to achievement, all I could think of, imagine, where am I? I've just given the exams for class 10. I don't even know my result. What kind of achievements I would have at that point of time during those days? All I could write was passed class 9 in 78% marks. That was my only achievement at that point of time. And to cut a long story short, out of 250 people who appeared for the interview there, 25 got selected. And what was our job? Our job was to go door to door, knock at the door and sell air conditioners, coolers and home appliances. And it was a 2 months project. Apart from a fixed sum what you will get, there was a contest which was run, wherein the person who will do the maximum sales will get a Timex watch. And guess what? I still have that watch. Imagine as a 19, 20-year-old, when I was taking care of the shop floor production, we had labor unrest. And there used to be gate meetings. And I if I may quote that in verbatim, 8:45, all the workers are gathering at the gate of the factory. They are shouting slogans, "Jimmy Kutta Hi Hi, Sudhir Kutta Hi Hi." I mean, the three of us were main, so to say, the part of the management. And one was a gentleman called Mr. Seva Singh. They used to shout slogan against us. 9 o'clock, they will come inside the gate, "Good morning, sir." And that's something, for a moment, I could not even digest what was going on. And I still remember one of our directors, I was around 20 at that point of time. She called me in her cabin and said, "Jimmy, do you know how to drive a four-wheeler?" I said, "No, ma'am." She said, "You have 10 days. 11th day, you will get the company's car." And she was true to her words. And what I did, that same evening, I enrolled in a driving school. She said, "How you come to office is your call, whether you come in a bus or in a train or in a two-wheeler. It's up to you. But wherever you will go as a representative of the organization, these are the keys." She exactly gave me those keys. And it was like, wow, what's happening? But that gave me very interesting insight that your dress and the address matters. And as I continued, I realized that maybe manufacturing is not my cup of tea. I wanted to travel, meet people, see the world. And I consciously shifted from manufacturing to the world of sales and marketing. Now here again, it's a very interesting story, I must tell you. There was this walk-in interview. This is 1998. This is sometime February or January 1998. There used to be an Ascent, Times of India. I mean, of course, there were no Naukri.coms or the .coms of the world. Every Wednesday, we used to eagerly await the Times Ascent, which will publish all the jobs vacancies. And I see walk-in interview for Mahindra & Mahindra for tractor division. I go there, I clear all the rounds, and final interview in Delhi. I go there, there were 13 people who had come for the final interview. 2 of us didn't get selected, and it was heartbreaking. You come so close, probably you think that your life is going to change, it's going to metamorphose into something else, into a new orbit, but you're again back to the ground, to what you were doing. I felt dejected, came back home. Interestingly, the next week, another ad came in, and this was for automotive sector. However, this time the ad was for walk-in interview in Delhi office, not in the Chandigarh office. I still remember telling mom that, look, this ad is for me. She made one comment. She said, Jimmy, when it was Chandigarh, it was okay. Now you have to go all the way to Delhi. Are you sure you want to do this? I said, yes, this is for me. I remember saying these exact words. She said, all right, always remember, make your choices. We'll help you to make those choices, but you are responsible for the consequences. And to cut a long story short, I joined Mahindra & Mahindra and worked there for close to about 8 years. The point is that we sometimes don't realize the failure somewhere is probably opening doors somewhere else. And what I always tell people, what I always believe in, every no is a yes to something else. And no, by the way, is not no. It stands for new opportunity. And then I moved to the world of entrepreneurship, and what does an entrepreneur need at any point of time? Business. And of course, to me, entrepreneurship is lifestyle. So how do you upgrade your lifestyle? And I still remember when we were able to get the project wherein DHL had bought over Excel in India. The first session was for the managing director of DHL as well as the Excel, and their immediate reportees, all the directors. My colleague Manish was with me. He was already an established leadership consultant. I have never done a leadership workshop. We were in Linta Center, Lonavala, and please allow me to say this, I was literally shitting bricks. I told Manish, I said, I cannot do this. And I still remember what he told me. He said, look, you don't have to think who your audience is. You do what you're supposed to do. If something goes wrong, I'm there to back you up. I said, okay, let me take that leap of faith. I delivered the session. In the evening, I was the happiest person on this planet. Because earlier, I could never think that I could conduct sessions for people at the CXO level. But that day totally transformed the way I live. And as the workshop got over, I mean, you know, all the CXO people, they had all these big, long cars. The Wally was bringing them one by one. I had a WagonR at that point of time. It's such a dolly. But when it came in, I realized that maybe perception also plays a very critical role here. And that's where I ended up buying my first Honda Civic. And when I was buying it, it's so interesting that as an entrepreneur, how do we look at various possibilities? My EMI was 20,000 rupees or 25,000 rupees, something like that, during those days for the Honda Civic. And I got a client who gave me a calendar for the next 12 months. And that one program amount was about 5,000-7,000 rupees extra than that EMI. I said, okay, fine, this is my EMI. Right? So one thing leads to the other, and you realize that life is full of uncertainties. And somewhere, I think I have made friends with uncertainty, which is there even today. So let's say today we do, let's say an X amount of business in the month. There is no guarantee for the next month, right? So you learn that yes, uncertainties are a part of your life. You imbibe that and you explore. Well, my disposition towards life is extremely positive. Whatever the situation may be, however bad the situation may be, I always look for the gem. And somewhere I realized that it helped me to create a transition from what I was doing to what I started doing. Way back when I had shifted to Mumbai, I joined a company called Adecco. They were an alien brand, though they were the world largest in their space, but in Mumbai, in India, they were relatively new. I could see a lot of things which people could do, but they were not doing. So I think somewhere that triggered that maybe I should go on this side of the fence and teach, train, coach people. I was sitting with this friend of mine who now is my mentor. His name is Manish Hanekar. He looked at me and said, "Why are you wasting your life?" I was like, "I don't even know you, and how could you say this to me?" Then he said, "You are capable of much more than what you're doing." We did a quick mathematics and I said, "Okay, fine. I want to go to that side of the fence. I want to jump into the world of entrepreneurship." He made a very beautiful statement which I still remember, and I use it for so many people now. He said, "I will not feed you, Jimmy, but I will not let you sink." That hit me hard. I mean, that somewhere gave me that kind of a confidence that yes, I can sail through in this difficult terrains, right? So that was something which I thought is important for you to know. And fast forward a couple of years, the day I thought I should study at Harvard and the day I actually walked in, it was almost about 16 years. So one of the things which I would like to convey through this platform is to dream big. And all it requires is just to hold on to those dreams. And before you could realize, those dreams can come true. And when I went to Harvard twice, but when I went there for the first time, then on, my life totally changed for good. Now you may ask why. My first program at Harvard was on strategies to become extraordinary. And a very small batch, one of my batchmates was director HR of Lego Toys at that point of time. She's come all the way from Denmark. I want to have a chat with her. This was September. The temperatures in Boston is about 28-30 degrees. मतलब इंडिया में अगर 28-30 डिग्री आप धूप नहीं सेकते. I wanted to speak with her. I thought, maybe in the tea break I will have a conversation with her. Tea break हुआ, but I couldn't find her. Suddenly I see she's standing outside. I walk across to the corridor, I go there, I'm standing in the shade, she's in the sun. And I called her, I said, "What are you doing there? Please come here." She looked at me, smiled and said, "Jimmy, the place where I come from, our sunlight is a scarcity. So let me soak it in." जोर का झटका बहुत जोर से लगा. How do we take things for granted? And how things which are available to us are probably scarce to somebody else. So can I appreciate, can I be more grateful? So that was the first big learning. Second one was, in one of these days, I stepped out in the corridor, and at the end of the corridor, I could see a very beautiful girl. And I'm somebody who would just walk up to a stranger and say hello. And of course, when there's a beautiful girl, I can't resist. I just walked up to her. And there was a book lying next to her. I started flipping the book. She said, "Do you need this book?" I said, "Yes, of course." I took the book. The book name is Life Unlocked by Dr. Srini Pillai. I went to the classroom. In the lunch break, I'm going to the lift because we were on the second floor. We have to go down to the ground floor to the canteen, cafeteria area. And if you remember the Diwar movie, the scene is there. The lift is about to close and one leg comes in. Amitabh Bachchan walks in. Similarly, here something happened. I'm in the lift. Before the lift door could close, leg comes in and the door opens. There I see the man himself, Dr. Srini Pillai. Now, how do I know he's Dr. Srini Pillai? Because I've just seen his picture on the book. And I called him out and I said, "Good afternoon, Dr. Pillai." He was pleasantly surprised. And I said, "I've just got your book. Will you sign it for me?" He said, "Come to my chambers after 4:30 in the evening." The rest is history. He became my mentor for my PhD. One thing led to the other. So I'm a firm believer in serendipity. Explore, take chances. You never know who you will end up meeting. You never know how that meeting can turn out to be. And then professor gave us an exercise and said, think of things which you don't have and you wish to have. I come from north part of India. Now North Indians, we always love big cars. And I was wondering, time for me to buy a Mercedes. Because when you buy a Mercedes, you think, you have arrived in life. Because a Merc is a Merc. I was thinking that I have to buy a Mercedes now, and the conversation began, okay, share with us, what were you thinking? I thought maybe I'll be the second or the third person to say. There was this 61-year-old man standing next to the window from where he could see the airport. He turned around and told the professor, Professor, I'm wondering, when will I have my own private jet? जोर का झटका और जोर से लगा. My reality got restricted in those four wheels of Mercedes-Benz. And here is this person who is thinking of buying an aeroplane. And that also gave me interesting insight that the reality through which we measure our success and failure is not defined by anybody else, but by your own self. And that instance totally changed the way I look at life. When I continued to explore this journey, I realized while sales is something which was coming naturally to me, but behavioral programs is something which intrigues me more. Which means if I'm able to mold or reshape somebody's will, it can automatically take care of the skill. That's where I got intrigued into the human behavior, how can I rewire the brain, so on and so forth. And one of the very popular programs I do is called Efficiency to Effectiveness, which takes you through various stages of what a leader does in any organization. A lot of time you have to do a lot of introspection. That becomes the I leadership. Second part of the program is wherein I live in an interdependent environment. My output is somebody's input, so on and so forth. So that becomes the we leadership. Now, when I know who I am, when I also know who the other person is, when both of us come together, the phase 3 happens, which is called looking beyond. And that seamlessly, once it gets woven, I have seen the impact. I have seen people transform from what they were and what they become. That further reinforces my belief in the potential of human beings. That human potential is absolutely unlimited. Now, I must share this instance with you. This was about a year and a half ago. I was traveling to the city of Mysore. There was an offsite planned for one of the organizations. And I run 100 days of running 5 kilometers each day. This must have been my 120th day. I had gone beyond 100 because once you are in that momentum, you don't intend to stop. I was with a colleague of mine. This was about 6:37 on the outskirts of Mysore. All I remember is suddenly when I wake up, somebody's putting staplers into my head. And I know a little bit Kannada and I'm counting in Kannada with them. Ondu, Yerdu, Moru, Nalakku, Aidu, Varu. And I asked my colleague what happened. And I'm told that while I was on the road, somebody came and hit me from behind, a two-wheeler, and I actually flew about 9-10 feet and I fell with my head on the ground. There were 9 stitches in my head, and all I was telling my colleagues was, tomorrow morning, see to it that I'm standing in the conference room and delivering the program. I have to deliver the workshop. Doctors, my colleagues, they said, Jimmy, you're mad. You are not going anywhere. And I'd read the story of Miracle Man. And all I could remember at that point of time was that, yes, I am the Miracle Man now. I have to walk out of this hospital. Finally, it was agreed that I will be kept under observation till 4 o'clock in the morning because it was a head injury. 6 o'clock, I walked out with my colleagues. 9 o'clock, I stood there in front of the session for a very simple reason. I may be going to conference room almost every day, but for that organization, it is an annual event. Once in a year they come. And if you have committed, come what may. You have to deliver it. Now, interestingly, from that day, for the next 9 days, and that was the time when my stitches were, will be open after 9 days. Every day I was in the workshop. Every day. With a simple belief that I will forget that, I'm not well. I will immerse myself into what I'm doing. And it worked like magic. So when people talk about mind over matter, I live mind over matter. I have a friend, he's the founder of Startup India Foundation. 2017, sometime in October, November, he called me and said, Jimmy, his name is Anil. He said, Jimmy, I know you're writing something to do with startups. I am doing a Seaside Startup Summit in March 2018, and I would want you to launch the book there. And I realized when you have a deadline to a project, work starts to happen at that pace. And that's where my first book was launched, which was called Design Thinking for Startups in Seaside Startup Summit in March 2018 at Goa. I'm somebody who believes that I'm here to create capacity and capability both in any system. So I launched another book which is Train the Trainer, which means whatever I do, by just reading that book, and if you start practicing those concepts, you can also become an amazing facilitator and amazing trainer. That is something which was in another book. And then there's a book called Deal, Designing Exceptionally Amazing Life, which is very, very close to my heart. Because I realize Deal is my story. When I say Deal is my story, all the methodologies or the methods or the processes which I've mentioned in that book, I am living them. And why did I pen them down? Because 2-3 instances happened successively in 10-15 days, because some of my friends were probably going through a bad phase in their lives, and I realized their narrative, they didn't even realize, but when I was listening to them, I realized their narrative is becoming their story, and their story becomes their reality. So what we say, our narrative becomes our story, and our story becomes our reality. And those stories which were shared with me at that point of time were extremely negative. And as I told you, I'm a very, very positive person. I said, no, this is not how the life is. And I started, reflecting on all the processes which I follow. And that book is, if I may say, a rage. 2023, last year, I was featured in the top 50 authors because of that book. We have a very vibrant deal community. People who go through those training programs, and mind you, for deal programs, they're all done pro bono. We do a pro bono workshop, you become a part of our deal community. That's where we support each other to design and live an exceptionally amazing life. And my recent book is Prarambh, which is the transition from campus to corporate, wherein somebody who is kickstarting their career from the world of education to the world of corporates, that's an amazing handy book. Pre-COVID, everybody used to talk about work-life balance. Today, it's about life-work balance. It's no more about work is number one and then you weave your life around it. It's the other way around. I decide that the life I want to live, what kind of work do I need to do so that I'm able to live that life. And remember, from work-life balance, it's become life-work balance. Now, within which I realized that there's a big need to create conscious leaders around the world, not only in India, but around the world. But when I say conscious, what does that mean? Think of it like this. When you're alive, you're awake, that yes, you realize that you're alive. And when you're awake, you become alert. When you're alert, you also become, you adapt. Once you adapt, you also become authentic. So all this is being worked upon in detail, and I'm currently doing my research on conscious leadership, how each of these facets, when you take a deep dive, how could you become better at what you're doing? So it talks about 3 things: Atma Bodh, Atma Manthan, and Atma Chintan. With these 3 as construct, how do I ensure that I become a better leader from who I am? So that's my project, which I'm currently working on. It's very, very close to my heart. So this is my story, and I'm grateful to this platform, the platform of My Story, My Madness, which gave me this opportunity to share my beliefs, share my story. And I believe that all of us, all our stories can inspire each other. So on that note, thank you so very much. Namaste.